Hello, and welcome to the Chip Observer, where we look beyond the buzzwords and try to navigate the ins and outs of the semiconductor industry, exploring how tech is evolving and transforming our daily lives. As always, we're presented by TechInsights, the definitive source for semiconductor analysis, with continued focus on growth, providing value to the industry. And to get the most out of this podcast, we suggest you subscribe and follow to get the latest news and updates. For more semiconductor details with a snapshot on the industry, we also invite you to visit our site at TechInsights.com and sign up for free. Become a guest user. There you'll gain access to our platform with complimentary reports, analysis, specialists, and industry-related news. And we'd also like to thank our contributors, David McQueen and James Sanders, with whom we wouldn't have any details or content, meticulously researched and organized to provide you both the online publishing and this episode. Now with this episode, we recap the latest issue of the Chip Observer monthly online periodical, the digital magazine we share our name with. We'll be looking at the ongoing shift in geopolitics and process news, some of the ongoing industry restructuring, and the ever-growing business of AI. Interesting note, although the script for this episode was fully realized by a real human being, the episode does include AI-generated voiceover. So, let's get started with the elephant in the room. The ongoing tariff tug-of-war between the United States and China. It's been a roller coaster, to say the least. In fact, if you try to keep up with all the tariff proposals from the U.S. admin this past month, you'd need a spreadsheet, possibly a crystal ball, and probably a stiff cup of coffee. But the most dramatic twist would be a surprise de-escalation. After proposing tariffs as high as 145% on some Chinese imports, the U.S. has backtracked on those, slashing those rates down to a more palatable 30%. Now, that's still a significant value, but in geopolitical terms, it's a clear signal. The U.S. is tapping the brakes, but not slamming them. Also, in a move that I can only describe as geopolitical chess, China also responded by lowering its tariffs on U.S. goods, down to 10%. It's literally an ongoing tit-for-tat game, but with billions of dollars, entire industries, and international supply chains at stake. Meanwhile, in South Korea, the U.S. is juggling policy priorities like the CHIPS Act funding and trade relations, and South Korea is playing a long game, and playing it boldly. The South Korean government recently announced a major funding boost to its already ambitious semiconductor strategy. This move builds on earlier plans and signals the country's unwavering commitment to becoming a powerhouse in advanced chip manufacturing. So to break this down, South Korea is expanding its Advanced Strategic Industry Fund, bringing the total investment in its semiconductor ecosystem to a jaw-dropping 50 trillion Korean won. That's roughly $35.7 billion USD. To give you a sense of scale, that's more than the GDP of some small countries. Of that amount, a whopping 33 trillion Korean won, or roughly $24 billion USD, will go directly to support semiconductor companies. That's a significant leap from the previously announced support plan of 26 trillion. The remaining 17 trillion Korean won, again about $12.3 billion USD, are earmarked for infrastructure, education, and various subsidies designed to create a rich, supportive environment where tech innovation can thrive. It's not just a spending spree, it's a strategic play. South Korea is betting that chips are not only the future of technology, but the future of national economic resilience and global influence. So, what's the takeaway? What does it all mean? Well, essentially, the global semiconductor race isn't slowing down. In fact, it's heating up. And it's not just about who can make the smallest chip anymore. It's about who controls the supply chain, who sets the standards, and who has the foresight to build for the future, not just react to the present. I know that many of us here at TechInsights are keeping a close eye on all of these moving parts. Recently, we've implemented a tariff watch to keep track of these related subjects. So we invite you to stay connected with us as we track the moves, the money, and the momentum. So moving right along from tariffs, the CHIPS Act, and the growing infrastructure, let's dive right into everyone's favorite subject of the day: artificial intelligence. Our analysts recently got their hands on the NVIDIA Blackwell GB100, a real powerhouse AI chip that's making waves in the industry. And what we found inside is nothing short of groundbreaking. Firstly, finding SK Hynix's HBM3E, the latest and greatest in high-bandwidth memory. Now, what does that mean in plain English? Think of it as stacking multiple ultra-fast memory chips on top of each other, like a high-rise apartment building for data. In this case, each of the 8 HBM memory packages has 8 memory dies, stacked vertically in what's called a true 3D configuration, giving us the term 8-high device. Each one of those memory layers holds 3 gigabytes, which is a 50% increase in per-layer capacity compared to the previous generation. That kind of jump is massive, and it means more data can be stored and processed closer to the chip and faster. In AI terms, it translates to quicker decisions, larger models, and more powerful capabilities. But wait, there's more. This chip also features something that's a first of its kind: TSMC's new packaging technology called CoWoS. That stands for chip-on-wafer on substrate with local interconnect. I know it's a mouthful, but here's the gist. It allows different parts of a chip to talk to each other faster and more efficiently. Imagine giving each chiplet its own private high-speed expressway. That's what CoWoS does, and it's a big deal for power-hungry AI workloads. Meanwhile, on the global stage, Saudi Arabia is making a bold move to become a major AI superpower. And they're not just talking the talk, they're putting serious money behind it. Enter Gumain, a brand new state-backed AI initiative focused on building out everything from cutting-edge data centers to large-scale AI model development. This isn't just about experimenting with AI, it's about becoming a hub for it. As part of this effort, they've reportedly placed an enormous order with NVIDIA, 18,000 of the next-gen GB300 Blackwell accelerators. That's a staggering number of high-end AI chips, and though the price tag remains undisclosed, the investment is clearly substantial. But NVIDIA isn't the only name in town. Saudi Arabia has also inked a $10 billion deal with AMD, aiming to build out 500 megawatts worth of AI compute capacity. That's enough computing power to train some of the largest AI models in the world. And if that wasn't ambitious enough, Amazon Web Services is getting in on the action too, committing $5.3 billion to create a dedicated AI zone in Saudi Arabia. This zone will include custom AI infrastructure, servers, and everything needed to support an ecosystem of AI innovation. In other notable announcements and partnerships, one particularly eye-catching partnership is with Qualcomm. You know them best for the chips in your smartphone. But here's the twist. Qualcomm is stepping back into the data center CPU arena. This is a space they've been absent from for nearly 5 years, and from a tech perspective that's good as a lifetime. Their return signals not just a shift for Qualcomm, but also how competitive and essential the AI compute space has become. They're not alone either. Cisco and Luma are also part of the growing list of collaborators, helping Saudi Arabia scale up its AI capabilities. So, whether it's revolutionary memory chips inside the world's most advanced AI processors, or billion-dollar investments reshaping global AI infrastructure, one thing is clear: the AI revolution is accelerating. Faster memory, smarter chips, and unprecedented international investments are setting the stage for what could be the most transformative era in tech history. So, moving along, let's take a look at process news. And while the headlines might not be packed with shocking revelations, there are some interesting nuggets for those of us keeping tabs on the semiconductor world. First up, Intel. At their recent Intel Foundry Direct Connect event, there wasn't a whole lot of headline-grabbing news, but sometimes, no surprises, means everything is moving forward on schedule, which is actually good news in this business. For example, their next-generation 18A process node, which is shaping up to be a major part of Intel's comeback strategy in the foundry space, remains on track. That's a big deal because 18A is where Intel plans to show its leadership in advanced manufacturing with ribbon FET transistors and power via backside power delivery. But here's where things get a little more interesting. Intel's introducing two new variants of 18A, 18AP, and 18APT. Now, 18AP is tuned specifically for mobile devices, so think smartphones, tablets, and other power-sensitive gadgets. It's all about optimizing performance while keeping power consumption low, which is key in our battery-powered world. Then there's 18APT. The T stands for TSVs, through silicon vias, one of those futuristic-sounding technologies that's actually here now. TSVs allow chips to be stacked vertically, enabling 3D chip architectures that can dramatically improve performance and bandwidth, especially in high-performance computing and AI applications. It's Intel's way of saying, hey, we're ready for the future of chip design. And looking even further down the road, Intel also announced that its 14A node, expected to launch around 2027, now has PDKs, or process design kits, available. That means design teams can start building and testing their chip layouts for this upcoming technology, giving us a small but exciting peek at what's next. Meanwhile, TSMC, Intel's biggest competitor in the foundry race, held its annual technology symposium. And while it too didn't deliver groundbreaking surprises, it confirmed steady progress on their most advanced nodes. All eyes are on N2, TSMC's 2nm class process node. And here's the good news: real silicon is already in action. Additionally, AMD and Synopsys reached milestones using the upcoming process. AMD's Venice EPYC data center CPU has been taped out and brought up, while Synopsys IP has been validated on 2N silicon. So, in short, both Intel and TSMC are pressing ahead with their advanced nodes. And even though the updates might sound incremental, this steady drumbeat of progress is exactly what chip designers and customers want to hear. Because when you're talking about building the future, whether it's AI, data centers, or next-gen smartphones, it all starts with the process. In restructuring news, let's start with Intel. One of the most storied names in tech is undergoing some serious transformation. The company's newly appointed CEO, Lip-Bu Tan, is making his presence felt in a big way. Now, if you follow the semiconductor world, you might recognize Lip-Bu from his influential role at Cadence Design Systems and his investment work through Walden International. He's known as a strategic thinker, someone who can see both the big picture and the technical nuance. Under his leadership, Intel is moving toward a flatter organizational structure. In plain terms, that means fewer layers of management, faster decision-making, and hopefully more agility in a highly competitive landscape. But with that change comes tough news. Reports suggest up to 20% of Intel's workforce could be laid off. That's out of over 108,000 employees. It's a sobering move, but one that Intel likely sees as essential to stay competitive amid growing pressure from rivals like AMD and NVIDIA, and new players emerging in the AI space. And there's more. Intel has officially spun off its FPGA division, Altera. For those unfamiliar, FPGAs, or field programmable gate arrays, are like the Swiss Army knives of chips, flexible, reprogrammable, and used in everything from telecom infrastructure to aerospace systems. Intel's now divested 51% of Altera to investment powerhouse Silver Lake, signaling a move to focus on its core competencies, while still maintaining a stake in this versatile technology. And here's a leadership shuffle to note. Raghib Hussain, formerly a top executive at Marvell, will step in as CEO of Altera, taking the reins from Sandra Rivera. Hussain brings a wealth of experience in networking and cloud infrastructure, likely a strategic choice as Altera eyes more growth in those sectors. Speaking of big changes, over in Europe, ST Microelectronics is also shaking up its operations. The company is planning a gradual reduction of its workforce by about 2,800 employees over the next 3 years. But they're aiming to do this through voluntary redundancies, suggesting a softer approach to restructuring. At the same time, ST is revamping its manufacturing footprint. Its European plants will become more specialized, focusing on advanced fabrication technologies. Think next-gen chips used in automotive, industrial, and IoT applications. They're also rolling out advanced packaging capabilities, which is a fancy way of saying they're finding smarter, more efficient ways to assemble chips to boost performance and reduce heat. And all their older 150mm wafer production, that's being consolidated in Singapore, a move likely designed to streamline costs while tapping into Asia's manufacturing ecosystem. Now, let's talk leadership again. NXP Semiconductors, another major player in the chip space, especially for automotive and secure identification tech. This set for a CEO change. Rafael Sotomayor will be taking over as Chief Executive Officer in October. Outgoing CEO Kurt Sievers is stepping down after 5 impactful years at the helm, a period that saw NXP grow steadily despite global supply chain turbulence and surging chip demand. Sotomayor, who's been deeply involved in product strategy and innovation at NXP, is expected to continue that trajectory, with perhaps a new twist or two. And finally, back to Marvell Technology. They're in the headlines again, this time for a $2.5 billion deal. They've agreed to sell their automotive Ethernet business to Infineon Technologies. Why does this matter? Well, think about modern cars. They're becoming rolling data centers with cameras, radar, infotainment systems, and more all talking to each other in real time. That means a need for super fast, super reliable in-vehicle networking, and that's where Ethernet comes in. Marvell has built a customer base of over 50 automotive clients for its Ethernet solutions, and Infineon clearly sees the value. For Infineon, this acquisition strengthens its position in one of the fastest-growing parts of the chip world: smart, connected vehicles. So, there you have it. A quick recap of May's issue of the Chip Observer, and quite an observation with ongoing tariffs, growth of AI, leadership transitions and major restructurings, and billion-dollar deals. Just another week in the semiconductor industry. These moves might sound corporate and abstract at first glance, but they're shaping the future of the technology that drives our devices, our cars, and even our homes. Again, we'd like to thank our analysts and authors, David McQueen and James Sanders, for sharing their notes and insights on these ever-evolving innovations. Note: the contents discussed here today were for informational purposes only and don't reflect views or opinions of the institutions or organizations mentioned. And as always, be sure to follow us, subscribe for updates, and explore more in-depth analysis at TechInsights.com. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and stay insightful.